Hello, how are you? Let me welcome you this Sunday afternoon to this session, this live stream session, where we are discussing the Roman architecture, a general topic, and history of architecture. I wish to welcome you. If you are with me, kindly contact me via the comment section. Give us a comment. Let me know that we are together. But in case you find this recording later on in our playlist, kindly we request that you watch it so that you're able to understand the concepts of Roman architecture, especially its historical background and how it has impacted the general involvement of architecture as a whole. Otherwise, I want to thank you for being with me in this session, in this live stream. Uh, Engage me through my comment section so that uh, we move together in this review of history of architecture and necessarily the Roman architecture. So I'll go straight to the topic of the day. But in case you are not one of my subscriber, I welcome you to subscribe to this channel so that you are able to support us, so that you're able to reach quite a lot of trainees, quite a lot of students in the TVET industry, so that we are able to nourish their knowledge. We are also able to add to the capacity in terms of architecture and the design work, because history of architecture actually is supposed to inform and build the capacity of trainees in their design classes in architectural studies, and also for general knowledge for the rest of the trainees in the construction industry, so that they are able to understand the historical background of architecture. Therefore, let me share with me my screen so that we move together in this topic for the next few hours or few minutes. Welcome, and let us begin. So I've shared my screen with you so that we are able to move together and discuss the concepts in history of architecture under this topic of Roman architecture. So we're discussing concepts related to Roman architecture with regards to their various concepts that they employed in the ancient time. Actually, we are looking at the ancient language of architecture related to the Romans and how they conceived architecture at that ancient time. Therefore, let us look at these concepts so that you are able to build our capacity in the field of architecture. On the introductory part under Roman architecture, we are saying that Roman architecture is considered a degeneration of classical Greek architecture and cannot be associated with one particular building type, such as temple, but a multiple of building types that were unknown prior to Roman times, e.g. the public baths, the basilicas, the amphitheaters, the circuses, and therefore we are saying, simply saying that Roman architecture is an upgrade of whatever the Greek architecture offered us. If you've not been able to watch my previous live stream on history architecture, where we looked at the Egyptian architecture and the Greek architecture, I would welcome you to visit our live section in this channel and also our playlist so that you are able to review those two civilizations, and then now we are able to connect them with the Roman architecture. You are saying that the Roman architecture is a degeneration of the Greek. It's an upgrade of the Greek in terms of the typologies of building that they were able to do. And you are saying the Roman architecture, we can't attach it to a particular building and say that this is the building now that defines Roman architecture, but it dealt with quite a number of buildings, e.g., the public bath, the basilicas, the amphitheater, and circuses. As we move on, we will see how Romans were able to impact and to bring a lot of changes in the field of architecture and how architecture has evolved to current date due to the interventions that Roman brought in the field. We're also saying that the multiplicity indicates more complex social function and structure, thereby a widened range of existential meaning. So the Roman architecture, as we'll see, it will cover quite a large amount of space as compared to maybe Egyptian or even the Greek. Roman building and layout have fundamental traits in common, and one we are saying that they are organized on rather strict axial basis, making an axis the distinguishing property of Roman architecture. So one of the major characteristics of the Roman architecture is the axis, and we are saying that this axis is organized with the principle of orthogonal order, where we saw this quite evident in Egyptian architecture. We are saying that orthogonal and rotational elements are combined to form complex axially organized totalities. The Roman axis is often defined on a crossing of axes. So, just as we will see as we discuss some of the buildings, we find that the axis where we have the north, south, and east, west crossing each other on an orthogonal order, making an angle of 90 degrees, is quite evident in the Roman buildings. Second, we are saying that it has extensive and varied use of interior spaces as well as active exterior spaces. Roman architecture is generally characterized as being spatial in contrast to the plastic Greek architecture. So what you are saying is that in the Roman architecture is uh, is basically internally oriented and at the same time externally oriented. With the Greek architecture, we saw that they were not concerned with the interior space, and they only were able to deal with the exterior space because their building, especially the temples, were not meant for people to go in and worship, but they were meant to house their gods. So with the Romans, we are seeing the opposite. Now they are interested in the interior space, as well as the exterior spaces, and they gave them the required attention uh, in terms of details and in terms of finishes. So we are saying that again, Roman architecture is generally characterized as being spatial in contrast to Greek. So the Greek, they were not really interested with the space, the interior space. So it was just to house the god. But now with the Roman, their space is now they are considering a lot of spatial organization within their space so that it can be able to perform the function of the people who are within those spaces. So we are saying also that these spaces show large variety of forms and are covered by vaults and domes. So with the Roman, we will see quite a lot of change and quite a lot of revolutionization on how architecture was conceived as compared the to the Roman, as compared to the Greek and the Egyptian. Because here we can see now there are varieties of form. We've brought other architectural elements like the vaults and the domes. So we'll be able to see how this space or these forms were able to interact and impact on architecture. So again, we are saying that space is treated as a substance to be shaped and articulated, making it active. So for the Roman, they are interested with the space. They are dealing with the space, and they are concentrating with the space. Again, we are also saying that instead of the triretic system of Egyptian and Greek, they employed a kind of concrete which was cast to form continuous wall, vaults, and dome. So with the Greek, we are seeing an invention of concrete-like material that helped them to build continuous vaults and dome. With respect, if you compare this with the Egyptian, where they used trilatic system, that is so many columns with beams of stone spanning on top of the columns, then we can see that the Romans were able to really react to this, and they were able to do large walls, vaults, dome easily due to the invention of the concrete. We are also saying that Roman architecture, therefore, may be characterized as an international style, which is independent of particular geographic situations. So, for them, due to the invention of concrete, it took the aspect of an international style where people copied a lot from the Romans, especially with the utilization and how the concrete material was being employed in the construction industry. We're also saying that their architecture made use of arched gateways, and the refinement of their work was influenced from the Greek, showing their contrast with Greek architecture. So we are saying that the Greek architecture made use of arched gateways, and the refinement of their work was influenced and from the Greek, showing the contrast from the Greek. Just as I had mentioned, the Greek were interested with the exterior, but now the Romans are concerned and are interested both with the interior space and the exterior space. Then we're also saying that the greatest expression of their architecture was in the design of temples and tombs. Just like the Egyptians, they also believed in life after death, and that's why they were also interested with the temples and the tomb, just as a reaction to their cultural and religious beliefs. Then walls and columns were made out of stones, though earlier temples had timber. Temples were on podium with deep projecting porch, which emphasized the front and the space before it. So these are some of the components that now we are seeing being employed within the Roman architecture. We are talking of the walls and columns, just as we saw with Greek. They also had walls and column. Egyptians the same, but now the type of construction is differing here, because now the Romans have invented concrete. They are able to do columns. They are able to do beams in a simpler way. But we are saying that before that invention, they used to do timber columns, and that now was revolutionized by the use of Quorum. We can see now temples again as a comparison with the Greek. We saw that the temples in Greek were located on high places, and we can see uh, the same theme being also employed by the Romans, because we are saying that temples were on a podium, that is on a raised ground, and them for their temples they had projecting porches. Before you get into the active interior space of the temple, you would have a porch that you would usher you into the active space of the temple, and this porch would redefine the entrance of the temple, and actually even the front space that is before the temple. We're also saying that temple were built in special sites outside the city wall. This is a contrast to the Roman, to the Greek, because we said with the Greek the temples were integrated with the dwelling, with the secular buildings around that city. The city were built around the Acropolis in Greek, but now with the Romans, we are seeing that the temples are being built outside the city wall, so which is a contrast to the Greek. Then we also noting that in Greek architecture, the orders were constructive, while the Roman used them simply as decorative features. Maybe as we will see even in some of the buildings of importance in Roman, most of the orders or the pillars that were used in Greek as for structural purposes. Now the Romans are using them simply as decorative features for aesthetic purposes, and we will see that how they combined the two and used the pillars for aesthetical purposes. Then you can look at land and settlement in the Roman Empire. And you're saying that Roman landscape was always centered on the capital. If we were to make a map of the Roman world, the centralized network of road is a feature that is very distinct. So we are saying mostly the network, the roads within the Roman Empire were designed to terminate at the capital. We are saying that they also believed in different gods at that particular time. And we are saying that the god Janus is the Roman god of all doorways and public gates. He was referred to as the god of departure and return. His two faces allow him to observe the interior and the exterior simultaneously. And this is just a belief that impacted on how they looked at life, how they looked at their design. We are also saying that when a Roman priest was consecrated, the augur or the consecrator seated at the middle and divided the space into four domains. Remember, we talked of the characteristic of the Roman architecture, the axis aspect, and it's the same thing that we are seeing here. And we can see where the axis within the architecture is coming from, because we are talking of when an augur is consecrating a space, they would uh, sit at the middle and divide the space into four domains, just using like an axis, the north, south, east, west axis, and that now was interpreted within the architectural order. We're also saying that in Roman praise is a manifestation of the basic cosmic order. The square and rectangular area is divided into four equal parts by two main streets that intersect at right angle. These two streets are referred to as the primary caldo and the secondary decumanus. So we have the two axes. It's the same concept being advanced here. When we are talking that we are saying that a square of a rectangle is divided into four equal parts, and we are saying that the two streets are referred to as the primary caldo and the secondary decumanus. Caldo runs from the north to the south, and this represents the axis of the world. So we are saying the caldo. We talked of the primary caldo and the secondary decumanus. So caldo, we are saying that it runs from the north to the south, and this represents the axis of the world. And this represents the axis of the world. The secondary decumanus represents the course of the sun, that is that runs east to west. So we saw this concept orthogonal order in Egyptian architecture, and we are seeing is the same thing that is being advanced by the Romans, where they are talking of the primary caldo and the secondary decumanus, where the caldo is the one that is the axis that is running north to south, and this represents the axis of the world. And then now the sun, the interaction of or the way the sun moves east to west, representing the secondary decumanus, which now gives us the orthogonal concept where the two interact at an angle of 90 degrees. Roman thus conquered the environment by manifestation of pre-established cosmic order in agreement with the gods, and this makes the center the origin of orthogonal and axial order. So I think that one is, I think I've elaborated well about the orthogonal order, that is the axis, the primary caldol, and the secondary decumanus. Then we look at building materials and technology in the context of the Roman architecture. And then we are saying that they employed traditional bricks, timber, stone, and stone technique. They employed traditional bricks, timber, stone technique, and I think these are materials that you are seeing them evolving all the way from the Egyptian, though Egyptians didn't use a lot of timber due to the availability, but in Greek and Roman now we are seeing the two being combined quite extensively. Stone was particularly used in rubble work or wrought masonry. So when you talk of rubble work or wrought masonry, the stone was not dressed, so they just use it the way it was, and they just construct using wrought masonry. We're also saying that masonry remained in use throughout Roman architecture in their monuments, temples, theaters, etc. However, masonry was limited and could not keep up with the fast construction due to demand. So due to demand and the uh, for new buildings and demand for extensive buildings, the stone were not able to keep up with the demand. And this is what precursored the invention of concrete, because we are saying they therefore developed a kind of concrete consisting of small pieces of stones or bricks laid in lime and pozzolana. So this is the first breakthrough within the construction industry that was brought by the Romans. And we are seeing they are inventing concrete by mixing small pieces of stones and bricks laid in lime and pozzolana. And you're saying pozzolana is a volcanic ash with high binding ability, which is today as the same as cement. And this was able to revolutionize the way the Romans did their buildings, and they were able to achieve large buildings. So then we are also noting that the new technique economized materials and speeded up construction. The invention of the concrete speeded up the construction work, and again it also economized materials and also helped to ease the pressure on demand for stones. The important work was done by skilled craftsmen, that is, building the outer envelope of walls and centering for arches and vaults. So just as we've seen, the invention of concrete has now brought other construction elements, other architectural elements like the arches and the vaults. And we are saying that the more technical work or the more skilled work that was there, like the arches, the vaults, their centering, was done by the skilled craftsmen. And then the unskilled labor did the mechanical task of placing alternate layers of rubble and mortar, because that was just now to align the different courses of rubble and then jointing them with mortar. So that is quite a big uh, advancement in technology on the construction work that was brought by the Roman architect, by the Roman designers at that time, and the Romans architecture at that particular time. Then we look at the various architectural elements that were employed by the Romans. And we are saying that apart from the columns, beams, and other elements adopted from the Greek and other cultures, the Roman extensively used the arch and extended it to form the vaults. That is, we have the barrel and the tunnel vault. Cross vaults were also formed by the intersection of two semicircular vaults of equal spans. Cross vaults were also formed by the intersection of two semicircular vaults of equal spans. So we'll be able to see a cross vault. We'll be able to see how these barrel vaults and tunnel vaults were able to be conceived by the help of the concrete that the Roman had invented. We're also saying that domes also developed from a combination of multiple arches, uh, and we'll be able to see that this was possible due to the invention of the concrete. The concept of concrete technology enabled the Romans to do complicated plans without involving laborious stone cutting, and also the capacity to span large spaces, which is a major character of the mature Roman architecture. So I think this is a point that we cannot forget to continue emphasizing, because it was a major big breakthrough within uh, the architectural field and the construction industry. We are saying that the Romans were able now to do complicated plans without involving a lot of laborious stone cutting techniques, like we saw that was employed with the Greek and the Egyptian, and they were able to do buildings that their spans were large, and this now actually is a character of the mature Roman architecture. So some of the elements that they were able to employ or in their buildings are the arches. There are the arches. We have the barrel arch, which is longitudinal. We have the hemispherical dome, and we have the cross vaults, where we have two barrel vaults meeting at an angle of 90 degrees. Then we look at a number of important Roman buildings. So we start with the first one, that is the public bath at Thermae of Caracalla. We are saying that these public baths fulfilled a number of other daily functions apart from luxurious bathing, because we know a bath is the basic function of a bath is to bathe. But for the Romans, this public bath fulfilled a number of other daily functions, because you are saying that they acted as resort for athletes, exercise spaces, place for gossip. So people would go there, chat, get the current news, or even they acted as libraries. So they were not just public baths, but they were also performing other functions. In them, there is a complete range of Roman skills in planning, drainage works, heating, and decoration. So this building, the public bath, also brings another aspect that is again a major breakthrough within the industry. That is the skills of planning, drainage works, heating, and again decoration, because all these are works that are quite important within any typology or any design work that is supposed to be erected or put up. In their interiors, they made use of marble for columns, wall casings, and floors. They also utilized and employed bronze doors, screen in sculptures, and these are some of the materials that they employed within this building. Then we have the Roman basilicas. And we are saying that the Roman basilicas combined the communal function of a social and political place and those of the court of law. So initially, the basilicas were utilized as social and political places, and of course, where law could have been administered. So then we are saying that they later evolved to be used for religious function alone, because as we know to date, the term basilica would categorize or would stand for a religious building. We're also saying that traditional form consisted of a central nave separated from the flanking aisles, colonnade, which supported the clerestory. And this is again an advancement from whatever we saw with the Romans and the Greek. We mostly the Egyptians, sorry, with the Egyptians, and we are seeing the same concept coming here, where you have a central the central part of the building being raised up with the aisles flanking the sides, and it's the same concept that is also being employed by the Romans just to create a clerestory lighting. Clerestory lighting are the windows that are done within the nave, the central part at the top, and that's where the light would penetrate to the interior of the building. Example is the Basilica of Constantine, which was done in three vaults, supported by huge piers. So that is one of the basilica that is quite synonymous with the ancient Roman architecture. This is a photo of the Roman bath, and you can see at this particular point we have a swimming pool, and that's why we are saying that at this particular time the skills on drainage work was quite evident with the Roman architecture, because they were able to ensure that the building was well drained. They could be able to create a swimming pool at this particular point, and then the baths would also house other functions, just as we saw when we are discussing the public baths. Then we look at the Raster building in this session. That is the Pantheon. Remember, with the Greek, we talked of the Parthenon, but the Parthenon is different from Pantheon. So for the Roman, the building, one of their most iconic building is the Pantheon. And you are saying that Pantheon Sanctuary introduces interior spaces as an expression of a new existential dimension. So we are bringing in the aspect of active interiors with the Roman architecture, and this is one building that introduces that aspect quite in a good way. Then we are saying that it was dedicated to all gods, indicating a general principle rather than a particular individual force. Again, this is a contrast from whatever we saw from the Egyptian, where they had specific temples dedicated for specific gods. But we are saying with the Roman, this building, the Pantheon, was dedicated to all gods, which indicates a general principle rather than a particular individual force, like we saw with the Egyptian architecture. So it consists of two major elements: a huge dome, which are referred to as rotunda, and a columnar porch. A rectangular volume has been introduced between the porch and the rotunda, which serves as a natural transition. And again, we are saying a longitudinal axis runs from the porch through the transitional rectangular volume and through the rotunda to the end of the apse. And this is the influence of the axis that we talked of. That this is the primary corridor, which is running from north to south. And you are saying that this is running from the porch all the way through the rectangular volume to the apse, or to the front of the sanctuary. Then again, you are saying a vertical axis is also defined rising freely to heaven through the large opening at the center, meaning the Pantheon integrates the sacred dimension of the vertical in the organization of the interior space. So we've seen how the primary corridor is affecting all the way from the porch through the central rectangular to the apse, and now the other axis that we talked of, that is the The secondary decumanus is the one that is being conceived right away from the center of the sanctuary through the dome, rising through the dome, through the center of the dome, uh, trying to connect or to bring the aspect of integrating the sacred dimension within the sanctuary. That is the sanctuary and the heavens. The Pantheon unifies the celestial dome and the longitudinal extended arcs into a meaningful whole, thus unifying cosmic order in the living history. And we are also saying that externally the building has no striking features and the portico is traditional, but the interior is quite splendidly done. I think that one is we've dwelt quite much on the way they did the interiors and the exteriors. Another point is it consists of the walls, vaults, and a coffered dome. So we have the circular sanctuary, we have the dome, and we have the vaults that support the dome. Then we are saying that symbolically the walls and vaults express the Roman cosmos, that is the empire, while the surmounting dome represents the heaven. And this is just a conceptual aspect where the walls now would represent the Roman Empire and the dome now would represent the heaven. The artificial heaven is linked or united with the natural heaven skies by means of a single ungraced circular opening in its crown. So the dome was left with an opening at the top, and that is the opening that we are saying it's linking the artificial heaven with the natural heaven through that opening. The dome rotunda is basically a system of arches designed to carry the enormous weight of concrete. So again, we are seeing the aspect or a combination of a system of arches that now helps or acts as the structural member in order to support the dome to carry the weight of the concrete. Again, you are saying that the lower half of the cylinder consists of 8 recesses, one of which is pierced to form the entry, and the dome is arched from a height equal to the radius of the circular plan. The whole is done in perfect circles so that the diameter of the plan is equal to the height. So you are saying that the dome is arched from the height equal to the radius of the plan. So the arches within the walling of this sanctuary have starts where the radius of the circular plan begin. So that's where the arches begin, and we have a series of arches until now we achieve the whole diameter, so that the height the height of the wall or the height of the wall is equivalent to the diameter of the dome. Then lastly, we are saying that the simple geometric relationship gives it a sense of response and grandeur, qualities enhanced by light solely from the huge opening at the top, which casts no shadow. So the same concept within the Pantheon sanctuary is actually capped by the concept where light filters through the opening at the top of the dome, which does not cast shadow within the sanctuary, within the temple. And with that, we come to the end of the various concepts that we wanted to explain about the Roman architecture. Again, I want to invite you, maybe you can search and see how the Pantheon looked like, see whether the principles that we talked about here arrive within the Pantheon. And that will give us more understanding on how Pantheon was conceived. Therefore, I want to thank you for staying tuned in this presentation. It has been a short presentation, but that is what I had prepared for this session. I wish to thank you for staying tuned. May God bless you. Just as I had said before, if you have any comment, any question, just post it in the comment section, and I'll be able to respond. Otherwise, I want to thank you for staying tuned and staying with me with this within this live stream. May God bless you and have a nice afternoon. Thank you.